Hi, Sam's my name from Dopa². Great to have you. I want to talk about polyrhythms, okay? I've struggled with them my whole drumming career. Maybe you are also looking for ways to learn them. So hopefully this video will help you. A brief definition of what I understand them to be is at least two time signatures played against each other, whereby the larger time signature divided by the lower one does not result in a whole number. So a 9/4, yes, that's a polyrhythm. A 6/4, yes, that's a polyrhythm. A 9/3, no, is not a polyrhythm. A 6/3, no, is not a polyrhythm. A 9/6, yes, that's a polyrhythm. And then of course you've got the 4s, 5s, 6s, 7s, 9s, 12s, and so on and so forth. Knock yourself out. So as a drummer, 4/4 is our bread and butter, or at least it has been mine. And so I'm very good at dividing any sequence of beats or bars into 4s. So if someone starts clapping any random tempo, so let's just clap away for a second. I can easily take that and divide those claps into further 4 claps, into divisions of 4. That's natural to me. So let's try it. 1E and 2E and 3E and 4E and now we've got even 4s, okay? So that's very natural for me. I can also do that with dividing those claps into 3 parts. So let's clap again. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and once again, quite a natural thing. It comes up a lot more often than 5s, 7s, 9s, or some other jazz. So I've become acquainted with those divisions, and therefore I can do 4/3 much easier than some of the other ones. And this is important to note, that because I can divide any bar or any spaces of beats that are even, of course, into further subdivisions of either 4s or 3s, this is why I'm quite adept now at playing 4/3 or 3/4. Mind you, there are a few traps that I have, and I still do, fall into quite easily. And this now goes or starts to touch on something that conventional wisdom, the conventional wisdom that's out there doesn't address. And that's the issue with trying to stick with a subdivision of 4 and learning polyrhythms of, let's say, 4/5 or 4/7 or 4/9. And let me explain that in a bit more detail. So if I am playing a 4/4 groove, okay, because I know 4/4, and now I want to play, let's say, a 5 against that 4, but within the same bar. I don't want to end up distorting the bar and putting an extra quarter note on the end of my bar. Well, then it's no longer sufficient to still subdivide my beats into subdivisions of 4s. I have to actually learn to subdivide by 5s, and let me show you why that's so important. Yes, outside of drumming and outside of time and trying to keep the bar length in terms of seconds the same length, I can of course apply the method of counting 5 bars subdivided by 4. So 1E and 2E and 3E and 4E and 5E and okay, because that's so easy for me to do. It's tempting to go down that route, and that's the conventional wisdom. Just count out 5 bars if you want to do 5/4, keep dividing them by 4, and then place your counter beat, the 5, somewhere on that frame of 1E and 2E and 3 and 4 and 5E and but what we end up doing then is the new ticks actually become the 4, whilst the old ticks are now 5. And I'll show to you what I mean by that. So if I go, I'm just going to count with my left hand out. I'm going to count out 5 bars with my left hand, and then start clicking what I'm hoping will be the 5 against the 4 with my right hand, but we'll see it's actually the other way around. Ready? 1E and 2E and 3E and 4E and 5E and 1E and 2E and 3E and 4E and 5E and 1. Now, so I achieved it, but you saw that my left hand was now actually doing 5, whilst my right hand was only doing 4. So now, instead of achieving 5/4, I ended up switching what used to be my 4/4 to a 5/4 and inserting a slower 4 against the 5. So I would have, if I was playing this in real life, all I would have achieved is I'd actually would have added an additional quarter note at the end of a bar, or eaten into the next bar by 1 quarter note. So let's just not count to 5 and just do it with my right hand anyway. 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2. So we come back together if we do this method on a 2 instead of back on the 1, because we're still subdividing by 4 and trying to do a polyrhythm. It is fundamentally a polyrhythm, but it's not achieving what I'm trying to achieve in my drumming. I'm trying to learn to now be able to play the 4/4, still have the quarter notes, 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E, and now I'm trying to bring in 5 hits evenly spaced that are obviously have to be faster than the 4, because I have to fit in to the same frame amount of time. I have to now play 5, so they have to be slightly faster. So I would actually have to be able to divide, instead of 1E ender, I'd have to be able to count 5 in between. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, sorry, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 2, 3, 4, 5, 2, 2, 3, 4, 5, 3, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, that's one method, but I don't think it's practical, because if you try and count so fast, what do you do when you get to 9, subdivisions of 9? And what if the song is a bit faster than what I'm clicking? You can straight away see the problem, but that's what it would require. And it does fundamentally require me to be able to divide any beat into 5s, 7s, 9s, and of course 4s, 3s, 2s, 6s, and 8s. And those 6s, 8s, 3s, 4s, and 2s are quite easy for us to do, as we've already established. So the fundamental premise of my message today is I need to figure out, and I need to find a way where I can assimilate into my blood, dividing beats into 5s and 7s and 9s just as naturally as I have learned to divide them into 4s and 3s and 6s, and not so much 9s, but also 12s, okay, shuffles and so forth. So how are we going to do that? Well, I'll show you how in a second. I'll just give you one more example that is very common, 4/3, and it's a mistake I made for many years. And you know, you're playing, you're thinking you're doing a 4/3, but all you're doing is you're just displacing, and you're ending up coming together on a 4 instead of on the 1. Let me show it to you. So 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a. Now I want to play a 3 over that 4. What's very easy to do is just, well, we're going to click every third hit of that sequence, and surely we'll get a 3/4. Yes, but we're going to get a 3 on the left over 4 on the right. Let me show you what I mean. 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4. Oh, we came together on the 4. It's obvious if you actually do the maths, because all we did, we stuck with the subdivision of 4, and we added a hit sooner with the right hand to make it 3s. So they have to obviously come sooner than 1E and 2. They have to come on the 1E and meaning they're coming sooner, meaning now we're playing faster with the right hand, which was supposed to play slower because we're trying to place a 3 against the 4. But all we've done is now we've shifted the 3/4 polyrhythm so that the right hand becomes a 4 at a new tempo. The new tempo for the right hand would technically now be, instead of 60 beats per minute if we were playing at that tempo previously, it would now be 80. So if the left hand is playing originally a 4/4 at a 60 beats per minute, 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and now we use this method, what's going to happen is we're going to insert a new 4/4 with the right hand at 80 beats per minute. Let me show it to you again. 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1E, a 2 and a 3E, 4E. So let's count them. 1E, a 2 and a 3E and a 1E, a 2E and a 3E and a 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. That used to be the 4. 1E and what we've ended up with is a 4 at a totally different beats per minute, and what used to be the 4/4 is now the 3/4, is now the 3 clicks over the 4 at the old time signature, and we haven't achieved 3 hits in the 1 bar. We've only achieved an additional subdivision of the 4. Instead, we would have to divide the 1E and the 2E into threes. So not E and R, only and R. We all know this. To count threes instead of fours, we count 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and so let's do that. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and now, because this has to be the 4, whilst this has to be the 3, we want to play less with our right hand in order to only click 3 times within the same length of bar. And because we've divided by 3, we can achieve this now. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2, 3, 1. You get what I mean. I just messed up there. But the left hand was still playing 4 in the same bar, and the right hand was playing 3 because we were able to subdivide the 1, 2, 3, 4 into 3 subdivisions of and R. And that's the key. So now if I want to play a 5 over 4, I have to be able to, as I've already mentioned, subdivide the 1, 2, 3, 4 into subdivisions of 5 in order to squeeze the extra 5 into the 1 bar and still land on the same one. Okay? So that's the conundrum. How do I solve it? Basically, I need to solve it by listening to subdivisions of 5s and 7s and 9s, and that's where I'm going to start for now. As often and as much as I have with subdivisions of 3s and 6s and 4s and 2s. And how can I do that? Well, I'm going to use my digital audio workstation to do that. And I'll show it to you in a second. But basically, this system that I've quickly created, and you guys can copy it, that's the whole point of this video, is so that I can start to hear not only a 4 over 5 played concurrently, which sounds impressive, but it doesn't actually help me learn what does a subdivision of 5 sound like by itself, and how can I get that into my blood and assimilate it so that just like my 4 is so natural, my 5 is natural, and I can then actually do it on the fly, on the go, during a drum solo, or if we're trading 4s, or if there's a song where there is a quintuplet, like how do I actually play it? I can read it on a piece of paper, but if I don't actually know it, because technically I haven't learned how to sing it, so to speak, then I actually can't execute it with my limbs. So I can read it theoretically, but I can't execute it. So let's have a look at the system that I came up with. So we're going to do it together now. So here it is. What I ended up doing in my, let's just call it DAW, okay? I created, and I'm only going to go from 1 beat per bar up to 9. And I say per bar because it's a bit more, a bit easier to understand. We're just going to pretend or work with the construct that we're going to try and play one amount of beats against another within the same bar, or within a bar of the same length in terms of time. So if we're going to stick with the beats per minute of 120 at a 4/4, then we want to be able to play 9 hits within that same bar, which is a 2-second bar, because at 120 a 4/4 is 2 seconds. Each of the 4 hits are half a second long, because it's, they're each 120 beats per minute. So if you add 4 of them together, you get a 2-second bar. Okay. Now, to be able to squeeze 9 hits in there, those 9 hits, however you end up, what would you call it, writing them or notating them, in this scenario, it doesn't matter how you notate them. What you want to achieve, or what I'm trying to achieve, is to squeeze those 9 hits into the same 2-second bar, playing them over top of the 4, for example. So I'm still playing the 4/4 with one of my limbs, maybe my hi-hats or my kick, a classic, solo example. The hi-hat's going and just representing the quarter notes, whilst the guy's going off his chops, doing some sort of polyrhythms, which sound crazy good. But in order to achieve a 9 over the 4 within the same bar, you need to be able to subdivide that bar now into 9 instead of 4. Sure, you could just use up 9 quarter notes and call that a 9 over 4. But yes, if that's what the song requires, awesome. But if you want to be able to do what I'm suggesting now, then that's obviously not good enough. And the harder thing to do is to now divide that bar into 9, okay? So in my DAW, from 1 to 9, I created I created ticks, okay? And for the 9 clicks in one bar, I used the tempo 270. So stepping back for a second, I started off with the intention to have a 4/4 at the 120 beats per minute, okay? A 4/4 at 120 beats per minute would sound something like, let me just find 4/4 at 120 beats per minute. Let me find it for us. Is down here. 4/4 at 120 beats per minute sounds like this. Okay, so that's what I wanted to start off with, okay? And in order to then extrapolate from there, well, how fast do the clicks now have to be, spaced evenly apart, to achieve 9 beats within the same bar, okay? That's why I'm calling it 9 beats per bar over here. Well, it can't be the 120 because then those evenly spaced 9 beats would obviously just extend beyond the 2-second bar and eat another 5. So basically it would be 2 bars and 1/4, which is not what I'm trying. I'm trying to fit those 9 into the 1 bar. So in fact, a 9 beats per 2-second bar would be a 270 beats per minute tempo, okay? And how do we achieve that? Well, let's just very quickly do the maths. If a 4/4 at 120, well, how many if we just divide the 120 by 4, what do we get? We get 30, okay? So if instead of playing 4 beats for a 2-second bar, we only played 1, so just the whole note, well, we would only play 30 beats per minute, okay, instead of 120. And it's logical. So let's listen to what 1 beat per bar would sound like if we've gone down from a 120 beats per minute 4/4. I'm doing a horrible job of explaining, but I'm going to leave this in the video anyway. So obviously it's as I've already said, a 1 beat per bar would be a 30 beats per minute, and it would sound like this. You're basically removing the 2, 3, 4 instead of 1, 2, 3, 4. You're just counting the 1, 1, 1. That's a 30 beats per minute, and it sounds like this. Okay. Now, if we add the 4 back, and it will sound like this. Okay. So now, what if we want to do 2 beats per bar at the same original tempo of 120 beats per minute as a 4/4? Well, obviously we just divide it by 2. So instead of it being a 120 beats per minute, we're going to do 2 beats per bar at 60 beats per minute. So both of those 2 hits in the 1 bar will be spaced apart at 60 beats per minute, which will give us basically each stroke will be a second apart in order to achieve 2 strokes in a 2-second bar. So let's listen to what that sounds like. I guess this is common sense, but sorry, I clicked the wrong one there. I clicked the 3 per bar. So let's do the 2 per bar. Okay, so that's all logical. Now, because I did this, let's just go all the way to the top. The extreme end is the 9. Well, let's just divide again, 120 by 4, we get 30. And then we times it by 9. 30 times 9 is 270. So in order to fit 9 beats into the same length of bar of a 2-second bar, we need to play those hits, whether they be quarter notes or notated as 8th notes or 16 notes. I actually don't know. Someone else can jump in the comments and tell me how you would notate that on a piece of sheet paper. But that bar now with 9 beats in it would have to have those spacings would now have to be 270 beats per minute apart, and it would sound like this. In case you don't believe me, I'm going to use the natural click, just to compare the pair and see what they sound like. Okay, and listen to this one again. Okay, so you can see it worked out correct. And then you basically use the same formula. You use the root tempo that you want. In this case, it's 30 beats per bar, 30 beats per minute for the 1 beat per bar. And then you extrapolate upwards from there. So if you want 2 hits in the bar, you're going to divide times it by 2. If you want 3, times it by 3, so on and so forth. And so I did that, and I created MP3s, and this is the result, okay? What I ended up achieving by doing this exercise, I've managed to create these 9 equally length bars. Each bar is 2 seconds long, okay? Because I started off with a 30 beats per minute, 1 beat per bar, which means it's a 2-second long bar. And then we worked our way up, and we can see now that there's a few interesting things to note. First of all, what I can do with this system now is I can play them concurrently in any order I want. I can, solo however many I want, so I can, add the 1 at all times, so I always know where the 1 is. But I can say, what does a 4/5 sound like? Well, let's listen to it. Okay, and so on and so forth. I think you guys get the idea now. You're probably all wondering, what does it sound like to have a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 played against each other all at the same time? Well, let's listen to that. I think you're going to agree afterwards it's a bit of a mess. And certainly if you try to learn all of them at the same time, it's probably overwhelming. But let's just listen to it for what it's worth. Okay, now, straight away, we heard something, and looking at the screen, we see something. And this is, because I've done this exercise, now we've all seen the, the YouTube shorts or the TikTok shorts where they have the, the graphics where it's either a triangle or a square or a hexagon or a pentagon. That's one way of visualizing it, but this one actually, surprisingly, I didn't expect to see this visual. I didn't expect the visuals to be this impressive. Has shown me a pattern straight away that confirms something for me that's present in all polyrhythms, okay, or actually in all bars. And that is, let's have a look at this V shape. So we see that obviously the 1 hasn't got a beat in the middle, but they all start on the 1, and then as they go, the 2 beats per minute, of course, cuts the bar exactly in half, as does the 4, as does the 6, and as does the 8. And because I was so used to 4/4 or 2/4, I never actually saw the fact that the left half of every bar is always a mirror image of the right half, okay? So the first half of a bar will, in terms of this system, shows that when you play the 9 beats per bar, it's not a carbon copy, it's actually a mirror image, okay? So, and we can see that here. So in a 4/4, you don't notice that because they are equal halves, so you don't really think of them as mirrors, you just think of them as stacked. But when you look at for example, a 5/4, the halfway point, you don't stack them. It's a mirror. If you put a mirror there, they would mirror each other. The 7, the same, it's a mirror, okay? The 8, of course, is halfway through. The 9, again, it's a mirror. So that was very interesting to me. And you see it very pronounced in the V shape, and you actually can hear it. So if we play that again, all of them together, you'll see that it sort of swings down and swings back up. So, and we're going to listen to them apart as well to get the mirror effect. But let's see if we can hear the mirror effect going on in these 9 polyrhythms, or these 9 rhythms played against each other one more time. Something like that. Now, if we, for example, let's see if we can find a mirror effect, and yes, we will. We can all see it now plainly in front of us. But let's see if we can hear the mirror, even with just 2 rhythms against each other, a 4/9. And the reason I'm highlighting this is because actually, when I started to practice the 5/4 with the conventional wisdom way, I started to notice that there is a mirror going on. In one at the early end of the bar, you're playing one click shortly in front of the other, and then the later end of the bar, you're playing the opposite way. You're playing the left-hand click before the right-hand click. If that makes sense. We'll do it with a 5/4 actually, just to hear what I'm saying. So you can actually see it visually. At the start of the first half of this bar, we can see that the 5 has a hit just before the 4, and then later on, the 4 naturally will have a hit just before the 5. Okay, so there's a mirror going on, and then the 2 hits of the 5 are divided in half exactly in the middle by the 4, and then the mirror goes on and again on the right-hand side. So that mirror effect is actually very powerful to start to, once you've learned the first half of a polyrhythm, I guess we can say now, it's really going to help you to finish off the polyrhythm second half. And that's a bit of a, I guess it's turned out for me to be a bit of a shortcut. Of course, you still need to get the coordination down where you can then reverse everything. So you can either try and do the reverse, or you can just try and learn it straight through. Whichever one ends up sticking is fine. But the whole point of this exercise and this system is that I can experiment and just listen over and over again. And I'm going to get to that part in a second. Let's listen to the 5/4 and see if we can hear the mirror. So it goes down and up, and I intentionally made these different, 9 down to 1. I made them stepping down from higher tones down to lower tones. It's actually exactly an octave. The 1 just being a snare drum, okay, so that we can also assimilate it or basically hear it melodically as well as see it visually as well as hear it in terms of rhythmically. Okay, so I think we've seen enough of this. So what can I do with this? And what, if you want to copy me, go for it. Hopefully you have a DAW. I can recommend this one. It's free. It even says it here up in the corner. Waveform free. It has everything I've ever needed. I'm not a professional music producer, so I don't know what I'd need if I were. But this has everything I've ever needed to produce sound bites or sound effects for videos, or, cut together some music to practice to, learn new songs, whatever. This is one I can recommend. And then here you have the freedom to do exactly what I've done, okay? Now, I can obviously open this door and play around with it if I want, but that's a bit too cumbersome, because what if I'm on the road and I just want to keep listening to polyrhythms? Well, I've gone ahead and given you an example of what I can do with this now. Now that I've got these, and of course I could eventually create 10 beats per bar, 11, 12, 13, and the sky's the limit, but I'm going to stick with the first 9. I've just created a quick, and I've turned this into a song or into a track. I've basically created a sequence of 18 bars where the first 2 bars are just the 1s, and then the next 2 bars are 1s over 2s, and the next 2 bars are then the 3s. Let's listen to the whole track, okay? And you'll get the point of what this is. Ready? Here we go. Okay, so now I've actually tried this. I created the MP3 because this program lets me cut out any noise on the front end or back end. So it's basically exactly this soundbite. If you play it on loop, it's perfect. It basically plays this on loop, and I can in my phone or MP3 player, but that doesn't exist these days, I guess. In my phone, which is an MP3 player, I can set the playback speed, from 100%. I can lower it down to 25% and speed it up to double. So if I want to, instead of learning these or listening to them at 120 beats per minute, I can reduce it and make it slower, and I can make it faster. I found 120 is a good average. Of course, I can always go back and create different time signatures if I wanted to. different tempos if I wanted to. But the 120 is a good medium, and I can go lower by just lowering the speed of the MP3, or go faster by increasing the speed, and everything's going to shift equally. So that's fantastic. So now, and this is just one example. So basically all I've done here is I've created a sequence of 2 bars, and progressively stepping up in the division of each bar. So the first 2 bars is 1 beat per bar, then it's 2 beats per bar, then 3 beats per bar, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So that I get used to hearing the same space of time now divided into different groupings, okay? And of course, if I want to focus on learning a 4/5, I can make a different MP3. Well, all I do is I loop a, single bars where it's just 1, because I think that's important to have a reference of where's the 1, and feeling the 1, and learning then to divide that 1 into 4s, and then divide that 1 into 5. So what I will probably end up doing is I'll create an MP3 like this, where I have 2 bars of just the 1 being played, followed by 2 bars of the 4, followed by another 2 bars of just the 1 again, followed by 2 bars of 5, and then just keep going backwards and forwards like that, so that I get used to, okay, this is what the empty space sounds like. I can get used to counting it and getting good at coming back on the 1 without any reference in the middle. And then I can get good at dividing them into 4s, which I can already do. But then dividing into 4s, and then dividing into 5s, and back into 4s, and back into 5s. And I might put them next to each other. And the sky's the limit. And then I can make an MP3 where 4 is over 5. So I could make, empty bars, bars with just 4s, bars with just 5s, bars with 4/5, and so on and so forth. And you really can just mix and match. And so what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to start with this pattern that we've just listened to. I've already done it for a day, and it's been fantastic. Just listening to it over and over again in the car, on the way to picking up the kids from school. If I'm watching a video on YouTube, I have one audio device, my headphones playing this, whilst my phone speakers are giving me the videos, because the videos generally have the ones that I watch, either music in the background, or it's just no talking, and I can just watch the video whilst I'm listening to the clicks, okay? So I'm possibly going to go TikTok crazy, sorry for the pun, but I'm going to listen to a whole lot of ticks and talks, but I can see that this is going to help me to start to hear and learn and naturally feel subdivisions of 5s, naturally feel subdivisions of 7s, which I've never done before, and all the other ways of learning them are impractical for what I'm trying to achieve, which is, once again, to fit the new subdivisions into the same time frame, into the same length of bar in terms of times in seconds, okay? Because that's the practical application of music. We don't, speed up or slow down to accommodate a new set of beats. We want to try and play in the same amount of time. Generally, of course, there are songs that stretch and warp time, and they're really progressive. So I think that's it, guys. I think I've explained myself. It's a long video, and I know you guys love long videos because you love listening to me talk, and I do appreciate that. So if you have any tips on how to improve either this system, or maybe you've actually come across a system that is just so much better than this and saves me a whole lot of time and trouble, then please do comment, and I will read your comments and possibly respond if they are worthy of a response from me. But yeah, that's practically it. I thank you for joining me. Hope you learned something. I hope that you can teach me something, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Okay, bye for now.